Am I audible now? Okay, thank you very much. So I think there is some problem with my system again. And so let me engage with you in this way today. So in the previous class, we started talking about gharar, which is the second most important prohibition apart from riba. And we talked, this term gharar can loosely be translated as excessive return or excessive risk or excessive uncertainty. But the scope of gharar is very broad. It is not only about risk, it is also about excessive uncertainty. And when something undefined, unknown is there in a particular transaction, that particular transaction may not be permissible from Sharia point of view. Scholars have differentiated between two types of gharar. Little gharar, that is, the term for that is gharar qalil, and excessive gharar or major gharar, the Arabic term for that is gharar kasir. So as far as gharar qalil is concerned, it is prohibited, and gharar kasir, gharar kasir is prohibited, and gharar qalil is not prohibited. Because every transaction, as we discussed in the previous class, that every transaction involves some kind of risk, and every business involves some kind of risk, and risk cannot be avoided completely. So risk per se is not, there is not anything wrong with the risk itself, but excessive risk and blind risk and that can be avoided is not allowed. So say, for example, if I'm selling you something and I'm not defining what I'm selling you, and if I'm buying something and I don't know what is the price of this product, so this kind of unknown things in a transaction makes that transaction invalid. So this is the second thing, that is apart from riba, that is the presence of gharar also makes a transaction non-Sharia compliant. But the difference between riba and gharar is that if riba is involved, even if in a minor manner, the transaction will become invalid. But if there is gharar, so we have to differentiate, we have to identify whether this gharar is small or this gharar is a major gharar. Only major gharar is a problem. Small gharar completely, avoid a small error and the element of risk in a particular transaction. But as far as major risk is concerned, that can be avoided. So while the slightest involvement of riba makes a transaction non-Sharia compliant, some degree of gharar in the sense of uncertainty is acceptable in the Islamic structure of business and finance. However, many areas still need ijtihad. I mean, this is a field that is still in evolving. I mean, and the process through which this the knowledge is extended is known as ijtihad, and ijtihad, the process of ijtihad is still going on, because new problems, new types of actions, new types of dealings, new types of business structure keep coming up every day. So scholars have to express their opinion, and they have to apply their logic and rationale to come up with their opinion regarding the permissibility of that particular type of transaction or business dealing. And this process is known as ijtihad. So this is still an evolving field. So many issues are there in Islamic finance that still need further investigation, further exploration. And let me mention with you some of the issues that are still, unsettled. For example, take the case of derivatives. Um, or for example, take the case of day trading or synthetic assets. So these are some of the things which are still, contentious, and further investigation, further exploration is required. Uh, and The reason why these kinds of transactions are declared non-Sharia compliant, the major reason that is cited is the presence of gharar, because such transactions involve a major risk, and a lot of things regarding that kind of transaction is not known. Now, on the basis of this, scholars declare a particular transaction non-Sharia compliant. Imam Malik defines gharar as the sale of an object which is not present. So something which is not present, um, how can that we can sell that thing? So this is the definition of Imam Malik. Thus, whose quality of being good or bad is not known. So if something is not present, how can the buyer assess the quality of the product, whether that is a good purchase or a bad purchase? If the quality is unknown, so the buyer cannot judge regarding the quality of the product. Similarly, the sale of an animal which has been lost by its owner. So if some animal has been lost by the owner, he cannot sell that because he does not have control over it. And there is no guarantee that he will find that animal and he will be able to deliver that to the buyer. So this is another example of gharar, because the product, the owner does not have control over the product that he is trying to sell. So on the basis of this, that particular transaction can be declared as invalid or non-Sharia compliant. Similarly, the sale of an offspring which is still in the womb of its mother. So if a baby calf is not born, the owner cannot sell it because there's no guarantee that it will be, uh, healthy baby and it will be born in a good manner. So the quality of the baby is not known. So so on the basis of this, this transaction of selling a baby who is still in the womb is not allowed. These are all illegal sales according to Imam Malik because of the involvement of the element of chance. So chance is also there, and this kind of chance is basically, a very high degree of the buyer can get a huge profit also, and he may incur some huge losses also, and he may suffer from he may become victim of frauds and scams also because of the presence of gharar in a particular transaction. In order to avoid uncertainty, Islamic law denies the power to sell in the following three situations. I will sell you these slides that I'm covering today. So don't worry about that because of the extraordinary circumstance. My system is not working. That is why I'm engaging like this. Things which, as the object of a legal transaction, do not exist. Things which do not exist cannot be sold. Things which exist but which are not in the possession of the seller or the availability of which may not be expected. So even things that do not exist cannot be sold. Things that exist but which are not in the possession of the seller can again may not be sold because of the presence of gharar. Then things which are exchanged on the basis of uncertain delivery and payment. And similarly, if the terms and conditions related with the payment, related with the delivery of the product, related with the price of the product is unknown, in that case also, uh, uh, we can say that there is high degree of gharar in the transaction, and this transaction is non-Sharia compliant. Such transactions are prohibited to avoid fraudulent. So just understand this main point that I want to make it very clear to you, that the aim of why gharar is prohibited, because gharar leaves scope of fraud to the fraudsters. Because if there is something undefined in a particular transaction, uh, those who are crooked people may exploit that loophole in the transaction and may dupe, naive investors, naive buyers, and gullible buyers who people who are easily deceived. So they may become victim of frauds and scams. So the ultimate of, the rationale why gharar is prohibited is that gharar leaves scope of fraud, because if something is not defined, uh, the buyer may take the advantage of this situation and may scam the buyers and may scam whatever the other parties are involved in that particular transaction. So such transactions are prohibited to avoid fraudulent activities, disputes, and injustice. Frauds, disputes, and to avoid injustice. This is the ultimate objective of eliminating gharar in a particular transaction. As a sale involving gharar may cause a vendor to consume or erode the property of others unlawfully. So, in the present context, the concept of gharar is highly related with scams and frauds. Scams and frauds. Um, Let me give you one another example from the stock market that you may relate to. There are concept of penny stocks. Penny stocks are those stocks that are very, for example, whose price is very less. For example, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, or 5 rupees, or even 1 rupees. Such stocks are called penny stocks, and whose company whose market cap is very less. Say, for example, 5 crore, 10 crore, maybe 100 crore. Yes, Vodafone India. Aditya Sharma is writing Vodafone. Yes, yes, Aditya, like Voda. Voda is slightly big company, but there are other, penny stocks also. So what happens? A lot of things about such companies, such stocks is unknown. Although there are regulations, there are reporting requirements that they have to follow. Such companies are listed and there are listing requirements that if there is anything significant happening related with the business, they have to report it to the BSE or NSE or wherever they are, listed. So the information, any significant information, has to be disseminated through stock exchanges, and but there is still a scope. I mean, a lot of things are unknown about such small companies, and despite the effort by the analyst, uh, a lot of things are unknown. So we can, and if we take the example of large companies, say for example, one of the largest company of India is Hindustan Unilever, or like say for example Asian Paints. So hundreds of analysts are analyzing all the information, all the financial statements related with such companies like Hindustan Unilever, or say for example Asian Paints. So so what I want to convey to you, how this is related with the gharar. So we can say that gharar, the element of gharar in large company is less, because a lot of things are unknown, which are in the public sphere. We can analyze, we can analyze those information, we can access the information related with that. But if we talk about the penny stocks, if something is unknown, if a lot of information we don't know about a company, and so how can we can analyze, how can we judge the whether a particular, whether it's worthy for investment purpose or not. So in small companies and penny stocks, the element of gharar is high, and the objective of SEBI is to reduce, this information asymmetry through the requirements of reporting. But from Islamic point of view, we can say that in an Islamic framework, if there is a regulator, the regulator will try to eliminate this information asymmetry, and the, the regulator will also do the same thing. The regulator will try to eliminate the information asymmetry and will enforce it. so that to reduce you know the element of gharar. So gharar results from unknown information also. Gharar results from misleading information also. Gharar originates from anything for that is unknown, uh, and which is relevant from investment point of view, but that is missing. So that introduces, that brings the element of gharar. Examples of gharars are, say, for example, ignorance about the species being sold, about the quantity of the object, and the price. These are major examples. But the example that we found in the classical books of fiqh, uh, I mean, the species of the project of the thing that is being sold is not known. The quantity is not defined. The object and the price is not defined properly. Lack of specification of the item being sold. For example, I sell you one of the houses of this project. I own two houses, and if I say that I'm selling you one of the house, so this will there is gharar, because which house I have in my mind. I have not expressed that. So there is element of gharar. So this is not allowed. I have to specify which house I intend to sell to you. Without specifying that house, sale of debt. Similarly, sale of debt is also not allowed. So say, for example, somebody owns money to me, I cannot sell that debt to someone else. That please recover this money from that person. Now you are the owner of that debt. So sale of debt is also not allowed. This also comes under the category of gharar in Islamic jurisprudence. Because and the reason is that the realization of the debt is uncertain. So there is no certainty that the person who owes money to me will repay me. So there is no guarantee. So if there is no guarantee, how can I sell that? So there is element of gharar in this particular transaction. Ignorance of the time of the payment, whether the sale is you know on the spot sale or is a deferred sale, it should be defined, and when the payment has to be made. Islam. जी मैडम. Okay, we will continue talking about gharar the next class also, and later on we will talk about masir also. Uh, Sorry for the disturbance today in the class. Just if anybody wants to ask anything, quick question, you may ask. No question? Okay, thank you.
Sir, how is
Yes.
Sir, how is Garar price different from Massive?
How gharar is different from massive?
Sir.
Okay, massive is basically gambling. Gambling, and the people in India, the usual term is sattabazi and jua and satta. The term
Yes,
for
sir.
that in Arabic is massive. Gharar is slightly different. Gharar means excessive uncertainty. That is not primarily, it is not because of the element of chance, but because something is unknown, something is undefined. Say, for example, the product is not defined. Just you can understand this, like, say, for example, I just have given you one example that I own two houses, and I tell you that I'm selling you one house. So, through this statement, uh, I cannot sell that house because this transaction involves gharar, because it is not clear to you out of the two houses that I own, which house I'm selling you. So I have to specify the specific thing that I'm selling you. So this is an example of gharar. So gharar basically results or originates from undefined terms and conditions related, relevant. I mean, if some transaction is not properly specified and defined, that results. I mean, that may lead to gharar. And masir is different. Masir is simply gambling. Yes, Nidal, you want to ask something?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for joining this class. We will continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.